Today, I have a rich solo episode for you, all about how to start the boundary setting process, how to be more assertive, and some tangible tips you can actually use in your day to day life. Welcome to Success Reimagined. I am Dr. Amna Shabbir, your host on this journey to thrive at the intersection of ambition and wellness. In every episode, I'll help you challenge outdated definitions of success, discover practical tools and strategies for growth without compromising your well being. I am so glad you've joined me. Let's reimagine what's possible together. I've noticed something over and over again in high performers. The people who take themselves seriously tend to achieve and sustain success. Now, I know that most of you listening in right now are serious human beings. That's why you're my audience members, right? You are the serious humans. You've gone and you've actually done the things that you wanted to do in life. Now, notice your own life and notice the life of successful people around you. You have gotten success in the domains of life that you were serious about. So if the professional domains of your life were serious and you gave them that respect that they needed, you achieved and you thrived in that specific domain. Now, if you ignored your personal rest, you didn't get serious about rest, and you didn't take yourself seriously, you might be struggling right now with a host of health and wellness problems, physical, mental, and other spaces. If you have wanted to create something, for example, write a book or maybe start a podcast or do something that is creative, you did not take yourself seriously in that specific domain to get the results that you want. And the same way, when I talk about boundary setting and I talk about how are you going to start this process, a lot of times why does boundary setting doesn't work for someone is because they're just not taking that boundary, that specific whole situation, and themselves in that context seriously. So if you actually wanted to set boundaries surrounding something, you actually thought that it was serious enough to demand your attention and respect, I promise you, you would be able to set that boundary. And I know that sounds like a very cold, hard fact, and I'm not looking into the fine print. I'm not looking at all the other things that are going on in your life, and that's okay. Because I promise you today, I'm going to walk you through a process that's going to see how important it is for you to start embodying this word called assertiveness and to move away from this word called avoidance. And I'm kind of like, all right, I'm going a little bit of a tangent and going back to the point that I was talking about earlier about taking yourself seriously. Now, I'll give my example. Recently, I've had a whole host of amazing humans reach out to me who have probably been witnessing my journey, have noticed that I've been sharing a lot of the successes that I've had, sharing a lot of milestones that I've achieved, and they might have had similar goals. And now they're reaching out to me and asking me, how did you do this? Like, how did you get here? And I will just simply say this today. I took myself very seriously when I started pivoting into entrepreneurship, when I started setting my goals surrounding creativity, whether it was launching this podcast, whether it was giving a TEDx talk. I mean, I took myself really seriously. When you take yourself seriously, you do the thing that needs to be done. You set the boundary, you say the no, and you go do the thing. Now, if you think you're a joke, if you think this is a hobby, and that's okay, like not that you thinking that this is a joke or you're a joke, that's never okay. But if, for example, podcasting, if that's your hobby, that's fine. That's okay. You can have fun with it. But just be clear about the goal and take that seriously. You can totally say that my online presence and my podcasting is just something I like to do for creativity, for support, for community, and that's my goal. And you can approach it with that clarity and that level of seriousness. But if you think without clarifying that or without taking yourself seriously, you can actually go and do the thing you can't. Okay. Now we're going to go back to the point I was trying to make about the two words that I've been like thinking a lot when it comes to boundary setting. And the first word is avoidance and avoiding and all the discomfort that comes with that, or the comfort that we've told ourselves that comes with that. And the other part is assertiveness and the word and everything that's attached with this word. Now, when I'm working one-on-one with my clients, these are all high achievers, high performers. They don't lack discipline. So that's never the problem. But I still have to do a lot of confidence building, a lot of work surrounding executive presence. And I can tell you that it's none of the people. These are not humans that you would think are struggling with maintaining executive presence, or these are not humans that when you look at them from the outside would ever struggle with setting a boundary, and yet they do. And so the reason I'm sharing that specific part is because what you see is not always what somebody's actually going through. And on the other end, when you see confident humans, it's not like they were all born confident and assertive. These are skills that were acquired and learned. So today, I really want you to think about boundaries, about assertiveness, and about avoidance in the context of this conversation that I'm going to have with you. But the premise and the foundation of all of this is that first thing that I shared, which is seriousness. If you take an element of your life, a goal of your life seriously, and yourself within that goal seriously, you will go and achieve that. And all success that you have had so far in any domain has happened because you took yourself seriously in that domain. When I say take yourself seriously, I also want to add, I don't mean ego or self-importance. I mean self-respect. I mean self-honestly. I mean treating your time and energy and limits as real data points, not suggestions. A lot of high achievers take their work seriously, but they don't take their humanity seriously. When I say seriously, you have to take all of this across the board seriously. Protect the deliverables, protect your nervous system also in the meantime when you're talking about deliverables. I'm reminded of an Eleanor Roosevelt quote over here. Nobody can make you feel inferior without your consent. So when you don't take yourself seriously, you hand out that consent all day long in small ways. And this is why this core concept is so important when we talk about boundaries. Okay, so with that, let's talk about the first word that many of us are very familiar with, avoidance. And I'm going to add over here, when I think about avoidance, I think about self-abandonment. One of the main ways high performers don't take themselves seriously is through this process of avoidance, avoiding difficult conversations, saying yes just to avoid conflict or disapproval, using busyness and overwork to show that you are too busy to actually feel your feelings and talk about or examine your needs in any way. Every time you override your limit just to look good, you're really abandoning yourself. And this is where the role of perfectionism comes in, right? When you are abandoning your humanity and what you're feeling right now and labeling it as professionalism or being a team player or being reliable, that's actually self-abandonment that you're dressing up maybe as excellence. Over time, what is this going to do? Avoidance and abandonment is going to lead to resentment. Avoidance and abandonment is going to lead to disengagement. You might be present in the space, but you're not really there, right? You're still ruminating and you're thinking about something else. Now, when you think about boundary setting, it is so important, again, to go back to this. If you are avoiding, you're abandoning yourself in the first place, how are you going to go and communicate and articulate your worth or set that boundary confidently when you've already abandoned yourself in the first place? Okay, now let's pivot to another word that I have grown to like, that is assertiveness. Assertiveness is the opposite of the pattern of avoidance when we're talking about boundaries. Assertiveness is clear, it's respectful communication about what you will and you will not do. Assertiveness is not aggression. Assertiveness is not people pleasing. It is what I would say precision and communication, precise communication. From a performance standpoint, assertiveness is how you protect your focus and your best work without burning bridges. That's where all the fear comes in, right? Because most of us want to be loved and liked and included. And that is why we keep going into that flight, fawn, freeze. So you're staying in the fawn space where you're people pleasing. That's where that comes in. And you want to be able to get your point across without burning bridges. And that's what I would say assertiveness is. It's not necessarily you being rude or cutting off ties. It's you getting your point across. It's how you align expectations that you can actually sustain and have high performance without collapsing. Okay, now let's talk about boundaries and seriousness because that's what this is, the behavior side of seriousness. Boundaries are how taking yourself seriously shows up when you talk about your behavior and your goals. A boundary is simply this is what I am available for, and this is for what I am not. I'm reminded of another quote right now. Boundaries are the distance at which I can love you and me simultaneously. Prentice Hemphill said this as a description for boundaries, and it's so powerful. Boundaries are the distance at which I can love you and me simultaneously. Okay, so when we're talking about assertiveness, we've moved away from avoidance. Now you're taking yourself seriously. And now we're going to talk about assertiveness because, and of course, like in this context, it's also important to remember how perfectionism shows up for you, right? Perfectionism says if I do more, I'll finally feel okay. When things get perfect enough, then I'll be okay. But when you talk about boundaries, it's about saying, I did my best, I'm already enough, and then I get to decide where my energy goes, right? When we talk about time management, it's more about energy management because we are all born with a finite amount of energy that we get to dissipate every single day. So when you start setting boundaries, you're moving from earning your worth to actually honoring your worth because that was there. And this is why assertiveness is so powerful. When I was creating my thoughts and surrounding this specific topic, I came across some research I actually want to share with you. In research, they showed that when teenagers are actually taught basic assertiveness skills, how to say no, how to speak up when something isn't okay, their levels of stress and anxiety and depression go down over the following weeks. Large health systems talk about assertiveness as a core mental health skill. They link being assertive with greater self confidence, a sense of empowerment, more honest relationships, and better communication. So, if it's powerful enough to help stressed out teens and important enough for major health systems to teach it, the odds are your high achieving brain and body could benefit too. Now, how are we actually going to practice assertiveness and how are we actually going to set those boundaries? I promise I'm going to share some tips and thoughts on that. But I also want to add another quotation over here by Warren Buffett. You might have heard of it. The difference between successful people and really successful people is that really successful people say no to almost everything. And you know what? Over the last couple of years, I have come to believe this to be true as I have progressed in my personal entrepreneurial journey as well. Okay, here are 3 ways that you can start addressing the boundaries that you need to set with assertiveness instead of avoidance and self-abandonment. Well, the first thing, step 1, is going to be naming the drain. First, find the one thing that is consistently creating angst, resentment, or draining your energy. This can be an action that you're doing. This could be the people that are related to the action that's causing you the resentment, anger, and the draining your energy. Write it down in one sentence. I feel drained when. Then add the impact on me is. That level of honesty can create so much seriousness and self awareness. I feel drained when. And just finish this. Okay. And this could be I feel drained when I am around person X, or I feel drained when I'm doing activity X, or I feel resentful when I am being told to do this. So naming the drain and naming the source of your emotions is really powerful. And when you name it, that's how you add seriousness to it, right? That's how you create seriousness to it. Step number 2, checking in with your body. Pause and notice what your body does when you read the same sentence back. Does it give you a tight chest? Do you have a knot in your stomach? Do you start having racing thoughts? Do you just feel like boiling red hot anger just rise? Ask yourself this. If someone I respected felt this way, would I take it seriously? And then ask yourself this question. Am I willing to take my own nervous system this seriously? So when you did step 1 and you named the drain, and in step 2, you checked in with your body and you were like, boy, yeah, I feel awful. I feel resentful. I feel anger. I can feel it. It's palpable. It's visible. And yet when the other person, it's funny, right? When they reach out to us, we're just going to say yes, whether it's a social commitment, whether it's a professional commitment, or we will just avoid. We'll just walk around it, dance around it. Okay. And the third step is communicating the boundary. But I want to emphasize and go back to step 1 and step 2 is till you take yourself seriously, till you actually identify and name what's causing your energy drain and what you want to do, what's causing the anger, the resentment, the frustration, and you actually physically check in with your body and you get so clear. And this is the first step of boundary setting will always happen between you and yourself and mathematics, I would say, like looking at what you have and what you can offer. And if you become so rooted and so clear in that, and you don't abandon yourself, is only then you can go and communicate the boundary as step 3. So remember, the first steps of boundary setting are always going to happen in your own mind, in your own head, with you. Now, if you are going to abandon yourself, avoid yourself, not be serious about this, you will never be able to communicate your boundary with confidence. So I'll give you some examples. For example, if you are, now ready to communicate the boundary and it's a team, you have to share your boundary with a team. You can say, when dash happens, it leads to X. Going forward, here's what I am available for and what I am not. It's very specific. It's very clear. When dash happens, it leads to dash, like you're just explaining. Going forward, here's what I'm available for and what I am not. And this is how you can communicate with your team. Okay, now if it's a loved one, let's change it up a little bit. When dash happens, I end up feeling, insert your feeling. I care about this relationship, so I need to set a boundary. I'm okay with it, or I am not okay with it. To your peers, you can say, I value our collaboration and I need to be transparent about my capacity. Here's what I can realistically do. I am not able to take on dash. You see, any of these statements, you can take them and you can make them your own, but they are more about drawing attention to the fact that they're simple, they're clear, you are naming things, you are using I statements, you're being brief, and you're sharing your capacity, your human capacity. The people that will care about you, who are going to be there for you, will be there for you, whether you set your boundary and a lot of times you're not setting your boundaries and you're abandoning yourself because you're afraid that those people will disappear. The people that matter will always stay there. They're not going to run away just because you set a boundary, just because you acknowledged your capacity. They're not going to run away. So I'll leave you with a couple of questions. Where in your life do you take your output seriously, but not yourself? And what would it look like to take yourself seriously enough to set one small boundary this week? Success that doesn't require self-abandonment starts with this. You taking yourself seriously, your limits, your needs, your values, and being willing to say no in service of a better yes. Thank you for tuning in today, and send this episode to that friend you know or loved one who struggles with boundary setting as well, or somebody you wish they knew more about boundaries. And let me know what you think when I share this episode. Let me know your thoughts on any of the social media platforms you hang out at. You might believe you don't have the time or energy to focus on yourself, but this is exactly the right time to get serious about your well-being. You don't have to do it all alone. I'm here to help. If you enjoyed this video and are ready to take the next step, head over to dramnashabir.com where you'll find free resources you can access right away. The website link is below. Let's get started on your path to thriving.